What is going on, boys and girls? It has been a very, very long and painful year, but we are finally here. MW3 is out. The new #1 best Call of Duty game ever made is here, and as always, we are back with a #1 console players MW3 settings video. So spoiler, this is going to be pretty similar to a lot of the stats that you've seen, a lot of the settings that you've seen in a lot of my other settings videos, but there's a bunch of new settings in this game and a lot of stuff that you definitely need to check out. So before we go any longer, I do want to remind anybody, by the time you're watching this video right now, there's like a 99% chance I am live 24/7. YouTube, Twitch, TikTok, all of the above, 24/7, grinding out until I get every single mastery camo in the game. So make sure, if you're not following, sub to those channels, make sure you go check those out as well. Those links will be in the description of the video. Yeah, I'm gonna be grinding and 24/7 around the clock, sleeping on stream in this bed that we got going on back here that you can barely see, grinding around the clock until we get that mastery camo as fast as humanly, physically possible. So that's something you don't want to miss. Make sure you go check that out. Again, link will be in the description. Anyways, let's get into these settings real quick now. I do play on a controller, so one thing you're gonna hear me repeat a lot is you want to get the right settings, the foundation to being good. You want to get the right settings down. You want to get your settings picture perfect where you like them, and then don't change them. The more you practice with that good foundation, those good settings, the more you practice with them without changing them, the better you're going to get. So one thing I always preach, don't change your settings if you don't have to. Don't unnecessarily make changes just because you don't like the way you feel. Some days are good, some days are bad. That happens to everybody. Don't just change your settings because then you'll just fuck yourself up. I played on Bumper Jumper Tactical for like 10 years now. If you do not want to spend $100, $200, $300 on a fancy controller, a fancy scuff controller, something with paddles, fancy triggers, you don't have to do that. You can play on Bumper Jumper Tactical like I do, even though I do have a fancy schmancy scuff controller. Use code READ, hashtag self-promo, hashtag ad if you want to get one of your own. They are fantastic and I do love them. Even though I still play Bumper Jumper Tactical, I now have all the paddles and the fancy triggers to use as well. Again, code READ, R-E-I-D, on scuff.co/readboy if you want to get one of your own. What else are we rocking here? I have controller vibration on. I'm just going to skip through all the kind of the pointless settings, get to the more important stuff. Controller vibration on. 99.9% of anybody anywhere out there is going to tell you to turn this setting off. Don't play with vibration enabled. A lot of people say it messes with your aim. I personally have never played a single game without vibration on. So when my controller doesn't vibrate while I'm playing, it feels weird. My aim is off. I don't like it, so I keep it on. Again, most people are going to tell you to turn that off if you are looking for ideas. Yeah, so I've got it cranked up to 100 with the full haptics. Now there's this neat new tool in this game for you to have the option to test your dead zones. Pretty cool. I like it. Again, I have a nice, beautiful new scuff controller, zero stick drift at all. One thing I always tell people is if your stick is drifting this super duper minor amount, just ever so slightly, and you're just moving a little bit if you aren't touching your controller, never ever is that going to affect your ability to win a gunfight. That is never going to make a difference. If it is jumping on its own, if it is moving completely on its own somehow, and you're doing 360s if you set down the controller, that's too much. At that point, you probably need to get a new controller. I don't think a dead zone is going to save it. But if it is moving ever so slightly, you don't really need to tweak your dead zone because that's not going to negatively impact your ability to shoot straight. But with that said, you do want your dead zone to be as low as possible, and you never want to change it. Across multiple controllers, you want to keep the same dead zone. That's why I'm on 3 instead of 0. Like I said, you want to be low, but 0 would be just a little too low. I think even I would have stick drift on my controller with 0. Yeah, just a little bit. It's on 0. So 0 is a little bit too low, a little too sensitive. 3 is what I found to be the sweet spot for the minimum, and then you want the maximums to go all the way up. But yeah, like I said, you want your thumbstick to not be jerking on its own, but if it's moving just a little bit, that's okay. And you want your dead zone to be as low as possible. I have the fancy triggers, so I just have the clicks right in. That's as deep as they go, so I don't need to worry about the button dead zone, but you do want to turn that all the way down to 0 to get the fastest possible reaction time when you click on that trigger. That is it for the controller settings. Into the aiming, I play on a 7 horizontal, 5 vertical sensitivity. Back in the jetpack CODs, when people were flying all over the place, up, down, left, right, you got to turn all over the place. I just played on a straight 7 sensitivity. When you went down to World War II, I turned I never had to do anything more than look up to a second story window. That was all the up and down I had to do. I turned my vertical sensitivity down. I feel like that helped with two things. My sniping, I was able to aim higher, get less hit markers, make those fine-tuned vertical adjustments, and then I also was able to beam people off of head glitches better. It was easier to control the vertical recoil on guns, to get just the tip of the heads. That's the only thing that was showing back then. To be able to beam people off of head glitches. Nowadays with Warzone, people parachuting, 5-story buildings where I had to look vertically straight down. It is a struggle. It is a struggle, so I don't necessarily recommend you copy these settings. Again, this is what I play on. It's what I've used for 10 plus years now. I'm super used to it. I don't want to change it. But I do not recommend, if you're looking for your own sensitivity, that you copy the different vertical and horizontal sensitivity. I would just go with the same number across the board, whether that's 7 or 8. I will say 5 is the absolute bare minimum lowest sensitivity that I would go with, and I really wouldn't go any higher than 11 or 12, more so 10. Somewhere between 5 and 10 is like the sweet spot that you want to be at. If you want to be as good as you can, you do not want to be having one of these really, really high sensitivities. Granted, they do look flashy, so if you're trying to be like trick shots, 360s all over the place, movement god, one of those demons, then yeah, you can turn it up to the max. But very, very rarely ever are you ever going to have the opportunity to turn on somebody, once every couple games maybe. But it is super important to be able to hit every single bullet in every single gunfight. That's why I play on lower sensitivity. That's why you see pros, really good players, play on lower sensitivities, because it's way more important to hit every bullet in every gunfight than it is to occasionally have the opportunity to turn on somebody or just turn fast. Again, somewhere between 5 to 10 is where I would go with if I was you. 5 on the lower end if you struggle to control the aiming, and then 10 if you're like good at controlling your recoil and stuff. The sensitivity multipliers, those are all on 1s. Vertical aim axes, those are all standard. The tack stance, something I don't use too much. I wasn't really a fan of that in the beta and at COD Next. I didn't really find it to be too useful, but one thing I did have was to turn the sensitivity multiplier down to 0.9 and made it a little bit less left and right when windshield wiper aim. But I like that. That is, again, that's just kind of specific sensitivity. I play on the linear response curve. One thing I will say about these is it is personal preference. There is not one of these that is better than the others. It's whichever one feels the best to you, whichever one feels the most natural, that's the one that you want to rock. I would recommend trying them all out, shoot some bots in a private match, go shoot some people, whatever just feels the best, stick with that one and then don't change it. This aim response curve slope, this is a brand new setting in MW3. There's probably some kind of sciencey stuff that explains just how this works. I'm keeping mine at the straight default setting. I've played on 1 and 0, didn't notice a difference at all. Again, that might have to do something with me playing on linear. Didn't try any of the numbers in between. I'm sure JGOD's going to come out with a video fully breaking down exactly what this does and if there's actually a best setting for this one to be on. But until then, I haven't touched this one, leaving it on default. Custom sensitivity per zoom on anything 5 times and below, I'm on the 0.8s, so your lower zoom optics, I can be nice and fine-tuned with the recoil control, and then the higher zooms, your sniper scopes, I'm on 0.9. Aim assist is on. For anybody who knew me back in Warzone 1, you know I didn't play with aim assist because that's for cheaters. At least that's what all the mouse and keyboard players used to say back then. I didn't know a lot of those guys. I didn't know who they were. I just heard a lot of mouse and keyboard players complain about aim assist and say it's cheating. And little old young Reedboy was like, oh, I'm too good. I'm too good for that. I don't need to cheat to be good at the game. Let me turn the aim assist off. All the Warzone 1, no aim assist required. And then I found out who a lot of these mouse and keyboard players are, and I learned that they're a bunch of big baby whiny ass bitches. So I don't really care about their opinion anymore. Now my goal is to just make them cry as much as possible, because they do cry a lot. So hopefully, by the way, in case you didn't know, aim assist is cranked in this game. I think they turned it down a little bit in the beta. They turn it back up in the full game. It feels strong. So hopefully all the mouse and keyboard players just continue to whine and cry all over the place until they find a new game to play. That would be fantastic. And anyways, motion sensor behavior. We're gonna go ahead and turn that one off. Gameplay settings now. Auto tactical sprint. So this was something ATS was useful in MW19. It was not useful in MW2. So I played with it on in MW19 in Warzone 1, took it off in Warzone 2, MW2. Now I'm not too sure with slide canceling being back, but you can't really spam it like the little cornballs could in Warzone 1. So I think this is a perfect middle ground for movement, by the way. I think it's exactly amazing where it is. I'm not too sure yet if ATS is worth it. I'm going to start the game off with it off. See after, a couple days if people say that ATS is the wave or not. I will consider getting onto that. But the setting that I do run that is perfect is single tap to run. That way, if you press if you, instead of double tapping forward to tactical sprint on the thumbstick, all you have to do is click it once. There is never a time when you want to run forward and you don't want to tactical sprint forward. You either want to be sprinting or bot walking. There's never an in-between. So I have this setting. This is perfect. This will save the life of your left thumbstick while also allowing you to continue to bot walk around corners, so that way you don't get caught with the sprint to fire delays. That auto tac sprint will struggle with. Also, you'll be able to hip fire a lot easier. Auto tac sprint does struggle with that. You want all the mantles, turn those off. You do not want to be mantling in the middle of your gunfights. It's one of the most annoying things, so having these all turned off is an absolute lifesaver. This is another new setting. This is a very big one right here. You have the option to, you know, normally one button is your slide and dive, and you tap to do one and you hold it to do the other. Now you can turn off the option to do one completely. You can turn off diving, you can turn off sliding. It feels like diving in this game is not going to be very useful. In Warzone 1 and Warzone 2, it was super useful to dive off of ledges and pull your parachute. You got to do that little extra lunge to get some extra distances on things. That, so far in the tests we've done in Ground War, that was not a thing. In this game, you kind of dive and like stop in the air if you dive and pull your parachute. So it seems like diving has no real use, especially with slide canceling being the best movement technique that you can do in the game. So I'm going to try taking off diving completely, so I never do it on accident. And one other thing people complained about is because you tap to slide and you're holding to dive, if you tap it but don't let it go right away, the game thinks that you're holding it to dive, so it has a slight delay before you slide. Getting rid of the option to dive should just remove this completely. You should just slide the second that you tap it to press the slide button. So that is picture perfect. That should be one of the most important things, to have those nasty slide cancel movements. Again, you can still press tap to slide and then hold to dive if you want to keep that instead. So tap to slide or slide only would be one of the settings that I recommend. Plunging underwater is not too much water, but I've got that set to free. Auto deploy, you want that turned off. I break my ankles, you're gonna break your ankles. It's gonna happen, but it is so much more worth it to get to the ground as fast as possible and not pull your parachute while you're still 50 feet in the sky. That's way too soon. Just allows you to get to the ground as fast as possible. So I definitely recommend you turn that off and get used to it. Movement base is another super minor thing right there. When you're hanging onto a ledge, rather than spamming your jump button over and over to try and hop on top of it as fast as possible, way faster in this game than it was in MW2, by the way. Just holding forward on the thumbstick, movement base should be good enough for that. Slide cancel sprint, this is another setting. I think, if I'm reading this correctly, this means that this is your slide cancel. If you turn this off, you can't slide cancel. So I think you want this on, with slide canceling being the good movement. I'm gonna go ahead and I'm gonna have this setting on. Maybe that's just me though, I don't know. I'm gonna try it, we'll see if in a few days, if that changes. I can update the settings video for you guys. What else? Anything else that's useful here? I mount with ADS plus melee. So I recommend you do not have the same tactical stance activation as your mount button, because you don't want to be doing the wrong thing on accident. I might on accident ADS to sprint and I don't want to swap to tactical stance. I might ADS to melee when I want to mount and I don't want to swap the tactical stance. I might double tap ADS sometimes and I don't want to swap the tactical stance. I'm never ADSing and pressing the down button at the same time, so I'm never going to switch to tac stance on accident. That's kind of why I go with this setting. There are some camo challenges that require you to be in tac stance, so you can't just turn it off. Process of elimination, this is the best option to go with. Again, I don't think tac stance is super useful. I probably will not be using it all that too much in the game, besides these camo challenges though. So I wanted to not be on always whenever I turn it on, and I don't want to have to keep pressing it to keep it on. So on respawn is the perfect setting for that. Another important setting here, prioritize interact. This is something you want on for Warzone. 100% want on for Warzone. It allows you to pick things up off the ground faster, but it does mean you have to hold to reload. If you're standing in a pile, you can't just tap the reload button. So it's better to tap to reload in multiplayer, but there's no point in unlearning, you know, your muscle memory for a month before Warzone comes back out. So if you're only playing multiplayer, stick with tap to reload. But if you are, you know, jumping back and forth between multiplayer and Warzone like I'm going to be doing, I want to be prioritize interact and just stick with the muscle memory that I have. Again, don't want to change a setting, don't want to learn something new, just have to relearn the old thing in a month. We're sticking with prioritize interact. Again, that allows you to pick things up off the ground way faster in Warzone. You want to apply all your armor plates, that's another important one. Anything else in here that's super useful? Not really. Nothing else in. So that is all of the controller settings done. I know there's a lot. That was a lot of talking for me. So let me go ahead and take a real quick drink. Let me catch my breath real fast. Anyways, on to the graphic settings. That is most of the stuff is done now. On-demand texture streaming. I've heard that this can cause some performance issues. I personally have never noticed anything with it on versus with it off. So I've got it turned off. I noticed no difference. Some people say it can limit your system's ability to perform at the top level. So whatever, don't want to risk that. Turn all your blurs off. You want everything here all off. This is just going to affect your ability to see your visual ability to see enemies and stuff. So you want all this stuff turned off. Eco mode, I've got that turned off too. I have no reason to have it on. I'm not really worried about my energy consumption. And I heard that this can also cause some performance issues. Some people were saying in the beta that having this on would make them lose aim assist a lot more. So turning it off helped it. Perfect works for me. Perfect works for me. I've got it turned off. I'm on 120 hertz refresh rate now. I'm on 120 hertz 1440p. Looks the exact same as 1080-60, not that big of a deal, but I've got a monitor that's capable of doing all that, so might as well. FOV 99, so this kind of falls into the same thing as your sensitivity. Now that us console players have this, it is not the best option to just crank it all the way up to the max. You do not want to be doing that. There's a reason why all the pros and all the best players do not play on the max. It's only the people that go for flashy showmanship and aren't actually that good that play on the highest settings possible. You want to stick somewhere between the lowest of like 90 to 95 and the max of like 110. Obviously the sweet spot in the middle of that's going to be right around the 100 mark. I am just so quirky and different and unique, so I play on 99. Got to keep in the double digits, you know. Shout out to 80 FOV. Played on that for a long time. Got to keep in the double digits. We don't want to be triple digits, but yeah, 100 is the sweet spot right in the middle where you should aim to be, somewhere in that area. You want your affected field of view. You want your weapon wide. I know this doesn't make sense to have your weapon wide, but this makes your weapon look smaller, which again is going to take up less screen, allow you to see enemies better. Make sure your camera movements are down to least. I did the entire Orion grind in MW2 with this on default because I forgot that I didn't realize this setting was not changed. Was wondering the entire time why my screen is always so bouncy. That's the reason why. So make sure you turn this one down to least. Don't make the same mistake I did. I'm not doing it again. This is a W. This is one of the most important settings in the game right here. The best thing that they've ever added. So instead of getting absolutely blinded IRL by every single time you get flashbanged, turn this on, your screen will go pitch black instead of pitch white. It'll save your retinas, it'll save you. I need glasses. MW2 made me get glasses. My eyesight fell apart so much from getting flashbanged. So damn much. So it'll scare you the first couple times before you get used to it. It'll make you think your game's crashed or something broke or something like that. Your monitor doesn't work anymore. But after you get used to it, this is an absolute W of a lifesaver for your damn retinas. Brightness and safe area, those are kind of specific to your monitor. Those kind of just depend on your own setup. That is it for the graphic settings. On to the audio settings now. I've tried all of these different settings before. Headphones and headphone bass boost most specifically. They all kind of just feel the same. It's not like one's better than the other. They change the way sound, but it's not like anything makes it easier for you to hear enemy footsteps or gives you an actual performance increase. So I just play on the headphone bass boost. We got the master volume cranked up to 100, by the way. Gameplay music volume, that is just strictly for this video. I will probably be turning this off as long as I don't forget when I actually start playing the game. This is just so there's background audio, so it's not just dead silent when I'm not talking. Dialogue volume, that's the voice of the guy that says, you know, enemy UAV, enemy kill streak inbound, enemies capping the flag. He does give good information, so you want that in your ear, but you don't want it to be overpowering every other sound, so turn it down just a wee bit. Effects volume's at 100. You don't want the squeakers in game chat to be, you know, canceling out your ability to hear footsteps, so I turn that pretty decently down. That kind of depends on how loud people are in game chat and how quiet they are. That's more specific to you. And then cinematic music volume, you don't ever need to hear footsteps or anything like that during the cutscenes, so I've got this cranked up to 100. Voice chat, all these on. Prox chat, last word, that's your death comms right there. I've got that turned on. I have my mic set to have my game chat mic set to have the absolute worst possible settings you can physically do. This is the worst sounding mic you will ever hear. Mic check. Mic check, mic check. 1 2 1 2. I would like to take this moment to remind everybody in the chat, make sure you are subscribed for the absolute insane audio quality that we provide here at youtube.com/Rebuilding. Isn't that just neat? Don't you just love it? I love when I unmute my mic in game chat to try and talk shit and everybody says, yo, mic sucks. And that's just their only comeback because that's the only one they need. Anything else good in here? Anything else good in here? I've got my hit marker sounds to be a classic. You know, we're playing all the OG MW2 maps. We want those OG MW2 hit markers, baby. You know you love it. That is it for all the audio settings, interface settings. Well, I've got my subtitles turned on. 2 reasons. The big one doesn't bother me at all. I don't even notice that the subtitles are there. It bugs other people so much that I leave them on. So I think that is absolutely hilarious. So I leave it on to bug other people. Some people have said that it's nice to have it on to be able to hear what the game is talking about. It doesn't really matter as much in multiplayer if it's just operators just saying things. But some people have said before, for like the ones who can't listen to the stream, like on max volume or something like that, to at least have subtitles is kind of nice. So that's a W. But a main reason I leave it on is to bug people, not to help people. I'm just built like that. The color customization that we've got going on here, I haven't really explored with these too much. You can change so many things. You can change so many different colors to be whatever preference you want. Just kind of don't really want to mix things up. Make sure you know what each color is before you get involved with things. And then the color filter. So this is one thing people say, how does your game look so nice? How does your game pop so much more than mine? I'm also on PS5. I changed the color filter to filter 2, set the world intensity to 80. I don't want it to pop all the way out too much. Oh, you want the color filter target to also be on both world and interface. And then I got the 80 and 100 as the intensities. I also have a filter on the stream to increase the saturation just a little bit and the sharpness just so slightly to make, you know, things look better for you guys. But that's not what my monitor actually looks like. The only thing that affects my gameplay on my screen that I'm looking at is this filter 2 in game. Minimap shape, you want that set to a square. You can quite literally see more. There's quite literally more minimap to be seen. More information is always going to be a good thing. So you want that. Anything else? Another thing, default, I think the default option for this is on, where your crosshairs kind of bob up and down. Doesn't bug me at all, but I've had multiple people say they don't like it and they wanted to know how to change it. Just change your crosshairs to static so that way they stay in the same spot. They don't like sway around while your operator is moving around the map. You want your hit mark. You definitely want hit markers on, and you want the damage-based hit markers as well. That's those red hit markers that you're seeing. You want those on to A. You want to know when you're hitting your targets. You want to know if you're shooting through a wall and you just don't know you're getting any hit markers because you don't have hit markers turned on. That's not good. You want a hit marker, and then you also want the red one to know when you've hit that kill shot, when the guy's dead. In case you're getting more hit markers after the red one, you know that there's somebody else there that's got full health now. Anything else? Now consoles, this has been a thing for a few years now. A lot of people said, oh, PCs, you're on PC now because you can see your server latency and pack loss. Nope, that is an option in settings on consoles now. I've got those turned on. I don't need the clock or the connection meter. And that, there's nothing in account or network that you have to worry about. So that is going to do it for the Reed Boy on Twitch MW3 launch settings, best settings to have available for all of you wonderful console players out there. Or if you're not on console, some of these are still apply to you. Again, I want to remind everybody, don't forget, if you are watching this right now, if I have not yet uploaded a video saying I have the final camo in the game, I'm still out there grinding to get every single mastery camo. I'm starting with multiplayer and then I'm moving on to zombies. I want all 16 mastery camos that you can get in this game. I want those all before Thanksgiving. That's my goal. So if you're watching this between the launch of the game and Thanksgiving, there's a 99% chance I'm going to be live. So make sure you come check that out. Don't forget to like and subscribe.